Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the fourth episode of our Happy Hour podcast. Today I have with me Chris Abbott. He's a longtime friend of mine. I met Chris a couple years back. He came to Solutions, and ever since I've got the honor to be close with him, and definitely watching him work with others has been such an inspiration in my life. And I just want you guys to hear from him how he's doing it and what it looked like and what happened and what it's like now. So let's welcome Chris.
Thanks, JJ.
Thanks, buddy.
I was born in Seneca, South Carolina, and the household was great. Real heavily based in church. Grew up 3 days a week in church, maybe 4, and I think about middle school is when I started to feel like I was a little bit different than everybody in my family, different from the people at church, but was still trying to be active and involved, right? My granddad was a drinker heavily at that time, and I was always over there. Ended up finding his stash and took a rock and rye. Bottle of rock and rye. Took that, got some Kool-Aid, orange Kool-Aid, had a Gatorade bottle, mixed it up, so of course it looked like orange Gatorade.
Right.
Took it with me to field day in middle school. And that was the first drink I had. I can't even remember how old I was, but I know it was the year before I went to high school. Felt so good. That warm feeling going down, hit the bottom of the pit of my stomach, and just everything else didn't matter. Laid down in the grass and just was there, passive with a couple of my friends. I think that was the last time I drank until I got to high school.
Okay.
I know mid-freshman year, I skipped lunch one day and went to one of my friend's house. We went in the attic and smoked, right? That was the first time I had anything other than alcohol.
For sure.
And I think that experience made me stop worrying about the differences that I had with other people. And that feeling was so nice. I didn't have to worry about, how I acted or what I looked like. Because for a while, I couldn't look in the mirror when I was younger.
Right.
I wasn't allowed to go anywhere outside of school and church for a long time. I think it was my senior year of high school when I was actually allowed to go and stay with friends and visit friends. But in that, right, started drinking again.
Yeah.
And this was every weekend. A friend of mine had moved from North Carolina to Anderson. We moved to Anderson in middle school. T.L. Hannah is where I went to high school. And, his parents had a pool house, so we were always out there drinking out of the, and I think it got to the point where, it wasn't enough to just be drinking on the weekends. I ended up getting someone to buy bottles for me. I would stash them in the house in my room. And I think that about midway through my senior year, I started sneaking out of the house. One of my friends lived down the road, so I'd go down there and smoke, and I'd come back. So it was a lot of drugs as far as weed and alcohol that carried me over into college. I stopped doing those two and started doing Adderall, Xanaxes when I got into college. The Adderall was keeping me up for studies.
Right.
Got through college. And after college, I picked up drinking again. I started working at a bar Applebee's as a server. Right. Graduated up to bartender.
Right.
And, people buy you shots when you're a bartender.
Oh, yeah.
Right. People buy you drinks. And so I'm taking shots and going to the back, having drinks, and then coming back around and, just sloppy with it. And I didn't get fired, right? But it was suggested that I find somewhere else. And so I did. Moved to Clemson and got a job working at Pizza Hut. I met a couple there that introduced me to Met.
Right.
And that started out as like a once a month kind of thing. That quickly escalated to every weekend, which then went to, here and there throughout the week.
So it's starting to progress.
Yeah.
Starting to get a little more and more, little things to heavier.
Yep. And that carried me over until I started incorporating drinks again, started smoking weed again, and I don't know, all of that was just to like not make me feel, because that feeling of being different carried over. It stayed with me, because it wasn't the drinks or the drugs that, obviously was a problem. We say, I was the problem. I carried it with me wherever I moved, and I was in Clemson. I moved back to Seneca. I lived in an area that was heavily drugged. A lot of dealers lived there. And I stayed there for about 2 years. All this still happening, still doing all the things that, I carried over with me from Anderson to Clemson, now to Seneca, back home, right? And I got stuck for 6 years. And I think that I got to a real dark place when my great-grandmother died.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
I was always over there. She was the glue to our family.
That rock.
Yeah. And when she died, I went in a hole, man. And I didn't climb back out. I think a few years later, my aunt died. And once again, plummet.
Going deeper and deeper.
Yeah. And, I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. It was only that one. You know what I mean? And that, I went heavy. Went so hard on that. Of course, dove into some other things as far as, like, promiscuous, stealing stuff.
Comes with that belly of the beast, Alcohol, it says the book was our master.
Right.
You're at that point in your story that it's like it has now had you and you're doing any means to get it.
Right.
Started off easily, slowly, sneaking out, breaking a couple rules, and don't understand it yet. That addiction is cunning, baffling, and powerful.
Yeah.
And then now in your story, you're gun ho.
Right.
It's everything is or nothing.
Yeah. And every once in a while I'll get to the point where I'm like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
I don't. I would stop. I would stop for like a month or a couple of weeks.
Right.
And it was never any longer than that because, something would go down where I was like, okay, you know what? I know how to fix this.
I'm going to do it.
I know how to fix this. And I would go back into it. So, living in Seneca, I got kicked out of where I was. And so I moved in with a friend from elementary school who, was a dealer.
Right.
So I moved in with him, back room, would go on runs for him or, move some stuff for him. And, of course, I got free shit.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, listen, hey, this is one thing in this is it's uncensored. Man.
Okay.
So say it's your story, and listen, it's going to hear the people that are viewing are the ones that you're going to touch and tell the story, and you're going to read somebody.
So I got free shit off of that, and so like not having to worry about the money part of it, just getting what I needed and being able to have access to it, whatever. I started spending money on alcohol. Right. And it got to the point where I I would go to the gas station and get one of the warm cases out of the back and just have it beside my bed and just be popping them.
Yep.
You know, popping them until I went to sleep, or if I went to sleep.
If you went to sleep.
You know, and then in the morning, popping them. So I'd be drinking all day, smoking, and just be in this haze continuously because I didn't want to deal with the failures that I had. I didn't want to deal with the way I was feeling. You know, I would have friendships or relationships, but it was only to get what I needed. You know, and that got to a point where I just wouldn't come out of my room. I stopped moving stuff. I stopped selling. And one of my friends that I made when I worked downtown at a bar, he was like, "Hey, I'm moving to Greenville. Why don't you come with me?" And so I ended up packing up and moving to Greenville with him. I think we stayed in the apartment for, and I want to, like, it's so crazy how, like, time and everything just doesn't.
You still don't even know the length.
No, it doesn't
it's
connect.
Like a dark wall.
Yeah, man.
You don't even know if your life is in like a self-ran, you know? Like it's just like a blackout.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well now I woke up and I'm here.
Because there were multiple times where I would go to a party or I'd be at a bar and like blackout functioning.
Right.
And people are telling me, "Hey, you know, great time last night. You know, you killed it in pool." Or, "Hey, dude, you fell down the stairs last night. Do you remember that?" And it's like, no. And I've got bruises and all over me and stuff. And
it's like your brain was shut off.
Yeah.
But your body was still moving.
It's still going. You know? And it was scary. It got to a point where it was really scary. But back to that. And, you know, he was a drinker.
Yeah.
So we would be out by the pool drinking. Wake up, popping them, and at this point, I didn't have a connect for any of the drugs, right? So it was just straight drinking. At some point, I reconnected with somebody back home, and they would come up, and they would bring it with them, and I was hiding that from my roommate.
Yeah.
Right? He only knew that we were drinking together. Right. He didn't know any of the extracurricular activities that were happening when he wasn't home.
Right.
Right? And so, that got to a point. I had a job at Spinks.
Right.
I found a job at Spinks and was working there, third shift. And so I got to the point where, you know, I'd lock the doors on third shift and go in the bathroom and smoke, come back out, open up, keep working. I wouldn't sleep during the day. And I think I had a job at Spinks for maybe 2.5 weeks. And then it got so every day, all day, that I called out of work for 2 weeks. Just called out, "Hey, I'm sick. And at the end of those 2 weeks, I got to such a dark place. And you know how you see shadow people and you hear stuff.
Right.
You know? I wrote him a note, said, "I thank you for all the help, but I've got to go find help." I looked up a place, and I packed a duffel bag, headed out. At this point, I was so, like, unhealthy and emaciated. I think I was at, like, 150, dude. Like, I put the duffel bag on my back and I just started walking towards the place. I got there, right, and it was not what I thought it was. So I went in there and I asked her, I was like, "Hey, I'm here to get help. You know, I'm doing drugs and drinking, and I don't want to do it anymore. I need help." And she was like, "This isn't that type of place. It was a rehabilitation place for surgery and old people."
Oof.
Yeah, dude. Right there at the counter, I broke down. I broke down. I was like, "Hey, I've been walking for a while. Can I get some water?" She let me get some water, and then I headed back.
That's right. That deep, dark spot in your life. You know, now you're at from the partying, the doing it to numb. You know, it says in the book we read, you know, in recovery, it talks about how, you know, it's the master, and I brought that up, but we drank for the effect of alcohol.
Yeah.
So we were doing that, but now it's like we're so cling to it because that obsession has started, and we can't go without. And then now that we're so deep, because like when you're depressed and you're drinking the depression, you're going to be even more depressed.
Right.
So you're at that spot in your life that you're so deep down and lost, and you don't know which way to turn.
Right.
What happened next? Like,
so on the way back to the apartment, I stopped at a bridge and was going to jump. Put my bag down and I was going to jump. I stood there. And, you know, I can only attest this to my higher power, because a man stopped and he stood there with me and he talked to me. And this was and I'm thinking for about 5 or 10 minutes.
Strange guy
some random guy passing by. And he stopped and he talked to me. And finally, I was listening to him, and I stepped back. Put my duffel bag in the back of his truck, and he took me back to my apartment. I got back to my apartment, talked to my roommate, he found a note. You know, we sat and talked. I told him I was deep in some shit, and I didn't know how to get out. Now, still trying to hide from him all this other stuff I was doing other than drinking, right? So he looked online for me, and he found solutions, right? He was like, I can't call for you. You got to call. So I called. Christian answered the phone, right? And, you know, bawling on the phone.
Right.
You know?
I need help.
Yeah, I can't
do anything.
You tell me what to do, and I'll do it, you know? And you know how we ask the question, okay, well, what drugs are you on, right? What are you struggling with? So I told him alcohol, and I ended up telling him the rest of the drugs that I was on, right?
Finally got honest.
You
could tell somebody.
First principle, man.
It was just like, hey, man, I'm not just drinking.
Yeah.
I'm doing some other.
Yeah.
But you couldn't tell anybody else because it had to hinder your place you were staying.
Right.
Your friendship, because how dare you do that behind my back?
Right.
But finally you could be honest and say, hey, I'm this person too.
And that was his response, was why hide it from me? Why not tell me? And so, you know, he is a good person. He went to CVS, bought liquid melatonin, gummy melatonin pills, and he just take all of this, you know? Yeah.
Get some rest.
Yeah. And so he knocked me out. And then the next morning, got up, packed my stuff, went straight to Solutions. You know, I got here and still in that haze, you know. PJ did my intake, and I remember like it was yesterday, dude. You and PJ were the only two people that I would talk to. The only two people that I would talk to, and I walked around with my head down for a while. I think it was 4 months until, you know, you were like, hey, you can get with it or you can get out.
That's right.
You know, and I think that realization is what pushed me to start, you know, looking for a sponsor and working the steps, because I knew where that would lead me, you know, on the street, right? No sort of support, no sort of family, nobody to, you know, because once I left, right, my family didn't have anything to do with me, you know, and I'd get the occasional phone call, you know, when somebody, you know, felt bad about not talking to me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, just to keep that little seed planted.
Exactly.
You know, now where we're at today in our lives, we know why they did. And it's healthy social distance from us. Like, hey, I got to separate from you because of what you're doing. Yep. But it was that stand. Like, okay, this is where we're going to stop for a second.
Because I would call my mom, you know, hey, I'm short on my phone bill. Can you help me out? I'm short on rent. Can you help me out? You know, and she knew,
right?
You know,
of course. Moms know,
right?
We're their babies.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And so, you know, starting to work the steps, I got a sponsor, and that was only because I needed a sponsor to phase up, because that was a condition. Either phase up, or you get out, right? I got a sponsor to fill that condition, and he needed a sponsee to fill the condition of him going to grad phase. So it worked out. And it wasn't any type of working the steps. I heard D'Angelo's story one night, and it resonated with me so hard, dude, that I ended up asking him to be my sponsor. He's a different breed, man.
Yeah, he is.
He's a different breed.
The love for that guy, man.
Yeah. Going through the steps, he definitely taught me the 3 essentials: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And, through that, I got honest, and I started working the steps. And I think step 4 was surprisingly easy for me.
Right.
Because I was so gung-ho about doing it the right way and making sure that I got everything on the table because I didn't want to go back to the way I was living.
The pain was so great that there's no going back to that pain.
That desperation. Because I was at what the book talks about, the jumping off place, right? Where you don't see yourself with it, you don't see yourself without it, right? And so doing the steps, working them, I ended up going to an outside meeting, and they kept talking about, okay, service, get outside yourself, service. And that's what I did, went heavy into service. And that kept me sober for about a year. I lived in sobriety for about a year. Graduated the program, right? And then hit this lull, right? Started resting on my laurels. That's right. You know what I mean?
You hit that spot that it was like, okay, I was in it to complete, but not just for that.
Right.
But now that you've completed what you came out to do, you're like, oh, what's next?
Yeah.
I'm doing the surface to get there because you committed to a program and you completed that.
Right.
Now it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
And so you're at that little, you're not even plateauing, you're just going straight.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's next?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. I think everybody hits it.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah. I talked to D'Angelo, and I was like, this is where I am. He said, keep pushing. So started studying, started going deeper, found ways to change up, to get uncomfortable, because they say from uncomfortability comes growth, and that's what I did. Stayed uncomfortable. Got sponsees, started working with them. And, I found that every time you take a sponsee through the 12, you learn something.
You learn.
You grow.
From them.
Yes.
It's like they get from you and you can see you and them.
Right.
But then you still have a piece of them.
Yep.
They either soften your heart, they make you strong or something. Yeah. It makes that bond, that connection you can't describe unless you do it.
Yeah.
It's like you got a guy, that light bulb goes off. Mm-hmm. He's been through the steps. He's rekindling with the families. He's getting that ease and comfort that he used to get from the first drink. He's getting that ease and comfort from sponsorship as well. Yeah. And so now he's happy. It's taking on a new meaning. So it's bringing you joy. Yeah. And it's so funny to watch, the way you interact with your guys. And that's why I asked you to come on the show, is because you are that guy full of service. You are that guy that's connected in an A program. I say A because you got the AA, NA, CA, whatever type of A, it doesn't matter. They use the 12 steps. Yeah. But when it comes down to it is you're a man of action, and what you preach is what you're doing. Yeah. And it's like, it's so beautiful to watch, and that's why I think people should hear these stories more of the guys that are actually working a program, the happiness in your life. You get to smile. Right away we went and I watched your facial expressions when we were talking about what it was like and then what happened, and then you lit up right when you started doing what you're talking about now. And it's like that feeling. What is that feeling inside?
The happy, joyous, and free, man. Right. And that's because I know, this is life or death. You know what I'm saying? And I want to live, and I want the people that I come across to live. I want them to realize that I care. And if nobody else cares, if you don't care about yourself, I care. And that's why I think it's important for the video to match the audio, right? So that what I say and what I do is seen as true and fact.
That's right.
Right? So, like I said, working with sponsees, and like you said, I grab a piece of them, and it pushes me, and it instills in me. And I don't think I don't think they realize how much they keep me sober.
Yeah.
I don't think it.
They think we keep them sober.
Yeah.
You always hear like, thank you for being there for me. But little did they know that they pushed us another day.
Yeah.
Them leaning on us and trusting us with their lives so that we can get them close to their higher power is the highlight of our universe now.
Yes, sir.
It's like, especially, not to put our business out there, but what we do for work is it gets tiring.
Yeah.
It's a lot of in and out. It's a lot of hard late nights. It's a lot of ups and downs, and sometimes we pour out so much, and you have to find that balance, and they're that balance for us.
Right.
The guys that actually work a strong program, the guy that says, hey, man, will you stay up late with me, and can we read more chapters in our book? And you're like, yeah, that's who I want to hang out with.
Let's get it.
And then you have your little clique, and we're stronger in numbers, it's like, look how many people in the last few years that we've been around each other we've met.
Yeah.
We've met a lot of people.
And
it's like, dude, when we post these videos, the people that I haven't seen in so many years, they get to hear it. And they're like, wow, that's the group of guys that are there now. Yeah. Or, hey, that's the group of guys that, are going and working a program. And it's a beautiful thing to watch, man. Mm-hmm. Last kind of questions are like, what does your life look like now, man? Like,
so now I am on the board of the Alano Club.
That's cool.
I'm secretary of my home group.
That's awesome.
Of course, I work here, community director. I get to interact with these guys on a personal level. CPSF certified, so I'm able to help them in more of a mental standpoint as well. Plans for the future that they may have, issues they're coming across, help them form a plan of action to move forward in those situations. I'm constantly trying to move forward. Stay teachable, That's what the old heads say. Yeah.
I started this podcast because, there's so many people that don't get the right impression of some type of program.
Right.
I try not to label things because I'm not advertising anything. I'm not advertising any community groups. I'm not advertising nothing.
Right.
It's just simply where you get it because there are many different pathways.
Right.
Whatever it is if you're lost and broken and you have nowhere to go, there is help out there.
Right.
Because I remember that time in my life that I was so lost and broken that I didn't know where to turn.
Right.
Thank God for friends.
Yeah.
Thank God for that stranger that pulls you off the ledge that you're about to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
I remember the days when I would pray that I could off myself so that I could not exist and hurt anymore like that.
Right.
But now we're here to tell them that if you work a strong program of any of your sort, that you put your higher power first,
right.
You put your brothers around you, you're stronger in numbers.
Right.
You won't ever have to feel that alone anymore.
No.
And that's why I started doing it, is because it's so important to hear guys like you, hear the guys before, look at Moser, look at James, look at Izzy, look at you. People don't get to see that. You can go to a regular AA meeting or whatever AA you go to, and you walked in the wrong one. Well, guess what? Not all of them are that way.
Yeah.
You find your little group, you run with it, and you put God first, or your higher power, whoever you choose to call, and you put your fellowship, and you get to save lives, and that's the best feeling, is this group I'm a part of. It's making disciples, reaching the lost, and that's what I get to do, and it's happy, and I thank you for coming on and telling your story, because I have a story, you have a story, and all the other people to come after this podcast have stories. And if maybe one person that doesn't relate to anybody else hears somebody's story, they might be able to do it.
Yeah. The only thing that ensures this community from drinking is intensive work with other alcoholics. It works when all else fails, man.
That's right, for sure. It's a couple things that I liked in your story was you talked about coming up in a good house. You're in church. What led you to when you got sober? What led you to feel the way you felt? Was it the book? Was it your program? Was it your sponsor?
Well, see, I would sit and, the book talks about looking at the trees and not seeing the forest, and having issues with things that I would find within the church. But D'Angelo, telling you, the open-mindedness that he had to take me on with the issues, with the resentments that I had towards church, towards God, towards my family for making me do those things, I owe a lot to him. I owe a lot to the fact that I was able to find the simplest form of God as I understood him.
That's right.
You know?
It's because that's a big trouble that people face when they come and try to get sober.
Right.
If they're just not in a program, they just walked into some type of program of like, an A, and they're like, well, they hear the word God and then they want to run away. They're like, oh, I've been running from this thing's called God or higher power, whatever you want to call it, for so long because my life has been ran on self. Yeah. And so everybody, I always ask that question to the guys that come on the show. It's like, hey, how did you find God? Or how did you find your higher power?
Because at the beginning, it was literally a group of druggies or drunks.
Right. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Is a good orderly direction.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I've heard that in the rooms for so long that it was like, hey man, believe in this group that you're sitting in, that we have a peace of mind, that by working some steps that it works for us. Right. That hope was instilled. Like I knew in one this time going around, I've been in and out of rooms forever, and I know that when I came, I saw the guys before me happy, joyous, and free. Right. And I didn't think any way that there was complete abstinence in that room.
No,
I'm like,
he's
living out there. He's smiling right now. He must be smoking something.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. He must be going in the back. Oh, I knew when he went in that bathroom they were taking a swig of alcohol. Yeah. And it was like, I couldn't believe, because there was no light at the end of the tunnel for me, that I could be complete abstinence. Yep. I've always tried the substitution, like, okay, I'll drink brown and not clear. Right. Or I'll do pills and I won't shoot. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I'm a shooter, so I'll just pop. Exactly. You know what I mean? And I tried every imaginable remedy. Right. And it's just complete abstinence and working a strong program. Yeah. Going a little farther in your story, at that deep spot, is, and you got your friend and he's showing you the love. Do you believe that love that he instilled with you and that stranger that your higher power placed before you jumped off that ledge? Do you believe that affects you today to be in your program of saying like, there is good out there, that I want to be that good?
Right. Yeah, most definitely. And we make amends, right? And I think that part of that for me was the living amends, doing the next right thing to show that, even though I can't reach out to you, even though we can't talk, I'm still going to do the right thing to essentially say thank you, right, for the love and the outreach that you gave me. I don't even know where this man is, right? But you want to be that person. If God forbid something was to happen to another alcoholic or an addict, and he don't know yet that he's an alcoholic or an addict, because we can say we're alcoholic and addict, but we can't tell that person they are. Right. But you could be that complete stranger out of nowhere when somebody thinks that they're at their all-time low. You could be the light. And that was beautiful to listen to, like, the despair in your heart, but you noticed that even before coming into recovery, that some random man stopped you from jumping off the ledge and then brought you back to where you could actually get honest with your friend after you made the call to go to a program, and him still accept and say, hey, I'm going to turn your back and go get you some vitamins and sleep meds so that you can sleep it off. It's beautiful, and it affects our story. Right. It affects our walk. It's a daily reprieve continues on our spiritual maintenance. Yes, sir. And we must have that daily. And another thing is like when you were coming in, and we'll just do a little quick run down the steps, is because we got a little bit of time. Yeah. You got honest with yourself. You saw the hope, just like me in the rooms. You built a relationship with your higher power. You talked a little bit about 4. When you were at like that 5 spot, like what got you over to be like, hey, the pain? Was it the pain? Was it that I'm willing to do what it takes to share with somebody else? All that. Yeah, it took me a minute to find to find the person that I wanted to do 5 with, right? And because for a while it was okay, yeah, I'm using these people, right. And still in that junky behavior, even though you're sober. Right. And when I found the person, it was just that whole release, just doing that. Of course, I in that moment found D'Angelo because I was like, okay, he's been open and honest, so I think that in doing this, he's gonna be a trusted, closed mouth friend. That's right. And so I laid it all out on the table, and after that, it was just such a freeing experience to be open and honest with him and just pour out and him accept me for who I was and for what I had done, you know.
That's right.
And know that, okay, this is now how I need to push you. I'm going to hold you accountable for your bullshit, right? And call you out on it.
That's right.
Right?
That accountability. He was good at that.
Yeah.
I used my roommate for a long time.
That accountability.
And he would get you.
Yeah.
You know, that's awesome, man.
It helped me.
You know, and so after that, and you saw what was blocking you, like at 6 and 7.
Right.
You know, regrouping with your higher power. You know, and it talks about in the program we work. You know, like humbly on our knees.
Yeah.
You know. Were you excited to do that part, or were you standoffish?
You know, I was standoffish because there were a lot of things that I had identified as shortcomings and as, you know, defects of character that I wanted to hang on to.
I wanted them.
Oh, I wanted to keep them.
I'm a good manipulator.
Yeah.
I got the gift of gab.
Right.
I like to talk.
Yeah.
And I was going to persuade anybody I wanted because I was
Right.
a user and abuser and manipulator.
Yep.
You know, and I could relate. So, like, how did that look of, like, how'd you get past that and not want to give it up?
So I organized things. I organized things as things I was willing to, things I was kind of willing to, and things that I weren't. So I let go of these. I started to move these up to the ones I was willing to, and the ones that I didn't want to started to become maybes, right? And it got to the point where now there are a couple of things that I realize are just me.
That's you.
You know, just me.
God may never take them.
Yeah, exactly.
God may never take it away.
Exactly.
You
And
know?
so I deal with those on a daily basis, and I make sure to keep myself in check and to allow others to keep me in check.
That's right.
You know,
and it's that bond that you build with your sponsor, and then your sponsees build with you as being a sponsor. You know, because it says in us, and like we always talk about it, is I have a sponsor that has a sponsor that has a sponsor that has a sponsor, and without them, without that bond of knowing them things that you're holding on to, you know, the relationship we just talked about with building, they can hold you accountable, then you realizing what's blocking you from your higher power, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get up to these amends thinking of somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make sure that you've done 1 through 7 before you went to that 8 and 9, because
most definitely
we're them key jumpers.
Yeah.
1, 9, 12.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm honest. I'm screwed up.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna fix the world.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna make amends. And then now I'm gonna save people.
Yeah.
You know, you're like,
Right.
You know, so sitting there at 8 and 9 in your life and having a little bit of sobriety, and what was your take on like having to go out to make the amends or even be willing?
So that willingness to even put them on paper was hard. Because there were people that I felt had wronged me.
That's right.
You know, and I was like, you know what? No, they did this to me, and I'll be damned if I'm going to go and apologize to you for what you did to me. You know, and having to come to that realization of I need to forgive to be forgiven.
That's right.
That was big for me. It was hard. It took a minute. It took longer than my first step.
You know, it's easy to make an amends to somebody that you're close with.
Right.
That is a family member, a friend, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to tell you, okay, well, I understand that you're on this new journey. We're just happy. Yeah. But what about that one that you felt that you had hatred in the heart? Yeah. You know, it talks about that in the book, and it says, like, that's where you get the most kickback. Obviously, you don't do it for that. But when you do it and you learn to overcome that, because, you know, like you just said, you hit it right on the nail. Our main goal is to be forgiven, but to be forgiven, you have to forgive.
And, you know I organized my 9 or my 8 in the exact opposite way that I did, 6 and 7, right? And so the ones that I really didn't want to do, I did them first.
That's right.
And that first one was my boss, my old boss at Spinks. Right before I got fired, my old boss. I felt like I was wronged and didn't feel like she deserved, that reaching out to. So
not sorry, but I'm going to show you through my action. But you don't even know if you're there yet because you've still got that in there. Yeah, like you did me wrong.
Yeah. And she even came to my graduation. Yeah. She helped me to memorize steps. Like she did a lot for me, and I just kind of spit in her face. Not kind of, I did. I spit in her face, man. And I made conditions, right? Pay off my fine, get my license, get a car, right? And then I'm going to go make these amends. The day I got a car, I called her I said, hey, can I come see you? She said, yeah, I'll go on lunch. And that was the first amends I made.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're saying, just like it says in the steps, because we use, and this is not me promoting anything or saying this is the only way. This is just our story.
Right.
We have similar stories in the sense of amends in the program that we work. So you literally kept your word of that desire in your heart. That at 8, you said, I have a list here, and I'm willing to make amends when they come.
Yep.
And then in 9, you did take the action of whenever possible, except when it would injure them or others. You know what I mean? And it's like, you're that others as well, man. And it's like, you did it right when you said, when I get a car and I'm mobile and I can get to these people, you made it.
That whenever possible, man.
That's right.
Because not everybody's going to come to the point where they get all their amends done, right, and can move on to 10. No, the book talks about keeping that willingness until the time arrives.
Because you don't stop at 9.
No.
I can't make any amends right now, but I'm not going to go to 10.
Right.
And people get that twisted sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
They don't know with the program, and they don't know that going from 8 and 9, it's just that willingness to that when they come up, that you run them by somebody in your support group, your sponsor, and you pray to your higher power.
Yeah.
And this is a good question, and I like to ask guys certainly on when it comes up to there in step 10. Is like to continue to take personal inventory. Is because we're quick to judge. We'll judge everybody and we'll tell you how to take your inventory.
Oh yeah.
But what about that? How do you apply that in your life today? Like that own inventory.
Yeah.
How do you check yourself from? Do I owe amends? Did I bring more to the stream of life than I took away?
That's exactly it. 86, dude. 86 is of course, on awakening, I do every morning, right? And then that when we retire, I do at night. So that process, sets my mindset up for the day. So when I come across a situation where, I'm quick to react, I stop and I'm like, okay, I think I just fucked up. So I either go to somebody and let them know, or I go directly to that person and say, hey, I shouldn't have addressed it that way. This is where I came from. Is there anything,
we could do to make it
right? Or, can we squash it? So it's definitely something that has stayed with me, and I'm pretty sure will continue to stay with me as long as I maintenance my spiritual condition daily.
That's right. And I love it. And you just ran right into the rest of the 2, 11 and 12. In 11, what does your life look like to keep close to your higher power? What are some things like advice? Do you read any daily reflections? Do you read any good motivational books?
Yeah.
What do you do for, you're 11
so
on the daily?
Prayer, meditation in the morning. And prayer for me is just speaking out into the universe. You know what I mean? That meditation is not always sitting still and hearing a small voice, but refocusing on 86, right? The things that I have to do for myself daily. I do read the daily reflection every morning.
That's right.
I don't always send it out, but I've been slacking off and I'm trying to get back on it. There's 13 people that I'll send my take on the daily reflection, or how it applies. We do that application class, how it applies to me in my recovery, and I send it out. And I usually get replies, and that helps carry me through the day. Just to hear other people's experience, strength, and hope.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we definitely heard you 12.
Right.
And I thank you for coming on. Like I said before,
thank you for having me,
dude. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It gets me to know your side of where on our busy days, and it gets the viewers to know that there's somebody out there that truly cares.
Yeah.
And I thank you so much.
No worries.
I love you, man.
Ladies and gentlemen.